They called her useless, until the quiet rancher saw her walk straight into a storm no man dared face. The wind screamed down the ridge like it wanted the world erased. Cade Mercer leaned into it, coat snapping, breath burning white in the cold. His horse fought the gusts, hooves sliding on half-frozen mud. Fences were breaking somewhere out there. He could hear the wire sing. Then a shape moved through the haze. A woman, walking straight into the storm. She wasn't running. She wasn't lost. She just kept moving, shawl flailing, limp dragging behind her like a stubborn shadow. Cade squinted, wondering if she was real or another trick of wind and guilt. The plains liked to play that game. Then a scream tore through the howl, child's pitch, sharp and panicked. Cade's head snapped toward it. Below, a wagon had skidded sideways on the trail. Horses thrashed, one wheel spinning free. The woman dropped what she carried and ran, fast despite her bad leg. The cry came again. Cade didn't think. He kicked his horse hard and went. The wagon tilted, axle groaning. The woman lunged for the boy, pushed him clear just as the wheel struck her hip. Cade caught the reins, dragged the team away from the drop. His shoulders burned. The storm drowned everything else. When it was done, the wagon hung half-broken and she was down in the mud, gripping her leg. The boy clung to her skirts. Cade stepped closer, breath ragged. "You hurt bad?" She met his eyes, jaw set tight. "He's fine. That's what matters." Lightning split the sky, blue-white. The flash lit her face, thin, streaked with rain and defiance. Cade nodded, lifted her up. She hissed through her teeth but didn't protest. He hauled her onto the horse. "Nearest shelter's a line shack. I can walk. Not tonight." Her silence was agreement enough. He swung up behind her, the boy tucked between. Her shoulder trembled against his chest, but her spine stayed straight. He guided the horse down the ridge, hooves splashing through black puddles that smelled of iron and storm. Memory followed him. Smoke, a barn collapsing, a hand dragging him out through heat and panic. A hand small as hers. The shack waited where the valley dipped, one crooked window glowing faintly from lightning. Cade pulled them inside. Firewood, matches, a blanket stiff with cold. He worked fast. She stood still, jaw locked against pain. "Sit," he said. "Don't tell me what to do." He almost smiled. "Then stand near the fire." She did. The boy slept, curled on the floorboards. Wind clawed at the walls. Cade checked his rifle and set it by the door. Outside, distant riders moved across the ridge, slow, searching. The woman's eyes flicked toward the sound, but she said nothing. "They'll pass," Cade muttered. "Maybe," she answered. He glanced at her limp silhouette, firelight trembling across the scar on her cheek. Something about her felt familiar, like an unfinished story told years ago. The wind rattled the latch. She didn't flinch. "They call me useless," she whispered. "They might be right." Cade looked at her for a long moment. "Storm doesn't care who's worth what," he said quietly. Outside, the gale screamed again, but inside only the fire breathed. Dawn came slow, thin light pressing through the warped boards. Smoke from the dying fire coiled like breath that refused to leave the room. Cade Mercer rolled his shoulders, feeling every splinter of the night. The woman was already up. She moved, quietly, gathering the blanket around the boy, feeding the fire with measured care. Her limp was worse, but she hid it behind motion. Cade watched her a moment before speaking. "You should rest. I've rested enough." Her voice had that steady grit of someone who'd been told to stop too many times. Outside, frost glazed the fence rails. Cade stepped out, letting the cold bite his lungs. The world was washed gray and empty, save for a crow perched on the corral post, feathers slick with dew. It watched him like it knew something he didn't. He checked the horse, the saddle cinch, the rifle. Routine steadied his hands. Behind him, he heard the clatter of tin. She was making coffee, somehow finding order in his one-room chaos. When he came back in, the smell hit him, burnt but strong. She poured him a cup without asking. "Thank you," he said. She shrugged. "It's what's left in the tin." He sat. The boy stirred in sleep, small fists clenched. A scar ran along his forearm, old, pale. Cade noticed, said nothing. The woman, Lena, she'd said once, almost by accident, kept her eyes on the flames. "They'll come looking," she murmured. "Riders last night," Cade said. "Could have been yours." "Could have," she echoed. Then quieter, or worse. Silence filled the space between their words. Cade's fingers traced the edge of the coffee cup. Years ago, he'd been the one they called broken stock. A barn fire. A boy too small to save his own brother. The sound of beams cracking. He still smelled it sometimes when the wind blew from the east. A log popped. Lena flinched before she caught herself. Her eyes darted to the door, then to the boy. "You're safe here," Cade said. She turned on him, sharp. "No one's safe anywhere. Not really." Her hands trembled once, then steadied on the handle of the pot. Cade didn't argue. The fire snapped again, sending sparks toward the window. Midday crept in unnoticed. She cleaned his table, straightened the few things he owned. A bent horseshoe nail caught her eye. She pried it free and hammered it straight with the heel of her boot. The sound echoed like a heartbeat. "Why fix what ain't broke?" he asked. She looked up, a faint half-smile ghosting across her face. "Because it was bent." Cade's mouth twitched. That answer lodged somewhere deep. A distant noise broke the quiet. Hoofbeats. Slow, deliberate, moving along the creek bed. Cade's head lifted. Lena went still. He crossed to the window, peered through the crack. 2 riders. One tall, one narrow-shouldered. Moving careful, like men who knew what they were hunting. He reached for the rifle. She put a hand on his arm. "Don't," she whispered. "They're not worth dying over." Her fingers were cold, but the touch grounded him. He set the rifle down, listened as the hoofbeats faded into distance. Evening settled with a low wind. The boy woke, asked for bread. Lena tore what was left of a biscuit, shared it. Cade watched her mouth the last bite she'd kept for herself. He wanted to ask why she'd been walking alone in the storm. Wanted to know who had hurt her bad enough to make her flinch at kindness. But he didn't ask. Instead, he handed her his coat when the draft slipped through the wall. "You'll need it more than me," she said. "Keep it anyway." She hesitated, then pulled it over her shoulders. The coat dwarfed her, but it looked right somehow. Outside, the sky dimmed to violet. Somewhere, a shutter banged in the wind. Cade poured the last of the coffee, voice low. "Tomorrow, I'll take you as far as town." Lena's eyes stayed on the fire. "Town's where they'll be." He didn't press her. The flames whispered against the kettle, steady, like something deciding not to die. When night came again, the boy slept between them. The fire thinned to embers. Cade watched Lena trace a line of ash on the hearth, one long, deliberate motion, like she was marking the place where she'd stop running. Outside, a coyote called once and fell silent. Cade whispered into the dark, mostly to himself. "They'll think we're ghosts before morning." Her voice came back, quiet but sure. "Maybe that's safer." The wind sighed through the cracks, carrying away everything else. Dusthaven looked the same as always. Sunlight slanting hard across the main street, air thick with grit and gossip. Cade Mercer rode slow, Lena and the boy trailing behind on the wagon he'd borrowed from the line camp. Wind tugged at the torn canvas, lifting it like a flag of surrender. Lena kept her eyes down. Her limp was worse after the ride, but she wouldn't show it. The boy clutched her hand, small fingers stained with dust and fear. Cade saw it all in the corner of his eye and said nothing. The town quieted when they passed. Heads turned. Words were whispered, low and sharp. At the mercantile, Cade dismounted, tied the reins to the post. "Stay here," he said. Lena nodded but didn't promise. Inside, the room smelled of flour and gun oil. The shopkeeper's wife froze mid-scoop when she saw Lena's reflection in the window. Cade felt the shift in the air, the kind that came before lightning. Bo Riker stood by the counter, hat cocked, grin lazy and mean. "Well, look what the wind blew in," he said. Mercer finally got himself astray. Cade didn't answer. He reached for salt, coffee, beans. Simple things. Riker pushed off the counter. She owes me, he said to no one in particular. Ran off with what wasn't hers. Lena's voice came quiet from the doorway. All I took was freedom. The words dropped like stones. The room went still. Riker laughed, a dry sound. Freedom don't feed anyone. You were bought fair, Cade turned then. His gaze was steady, his tone mild. That true? She's lying, Riker said. Same as always. Girl can't even walk straight, but she can steal a man blind. Lena stepped forward, limping on the bad leg, her hand tightening on the boy's shoulder. You lit that barn, she said softly, and blamed me because you knew they'd believe it. A murmur spread through the store. Someone dropped a scoop. The boy shrank closer to her side. Riker's smile faltered. You'd better hush before what? Cade's voice cut clean through the air. For a second, no one breathed. Riker's eyes narrowed. You got no part in this, Mercer. Let the town settle its own debts. Cade didn't move, didn't blink. I was there that night, he said. Smoke and screaming. Someone pulled me out. I never saw who. Riker's face twitched. Coincidence. Maybe. Cade turned to Lena. Was it you? She didn't answer, just looked at the floor. Riker barked a laugh. Her? She can't save herself. Something in Cade's jaw shifted. She saved someone, he said. That's enough. Riker's grin turned cold. He reached for the pistol at his hip. The sound of metal on leather snapped through the room. The boy gasped. Lena stepped in front of him. Her hand trembled but didn't drop. Don't, she said. Cade's own weapon was already drawn, steady, level. His voice stayed low. You don't want to finish that thought, Bo. Outside, the wind kicked dust against the window like warning drums. The whole town seemed to hold its breath. Then the sheriff's door creaked open across the street. No one came out. No one ever did when Riker was involved. Riker's lips curled. You'll regret this, rancher. Cade holstered his gun, eyes never leaving him. Already do. He guided Lena and the boy out, shoulders tight, the air still humming from what hadn't happened. On the street, the sunlight burned white. Lena's hand shook as she adjusted the boy's coat. Cade didn't touch her, just walked beside her toward the wagon. Why didn't you tell me before? He asked quietly. She looked past him to the ridge beyond town. Because believing me never helped anyone. He started to answer, but stopped. The wind carried the faint ring of spurs behind them. Riker's men. Go, Cade said. They climbed onto the wagon. Hooves kicked dust as the team lunged forward. The road stretched out like a ribbon of heat, leading back toward the hills. As they left the town behind, Cade glanced once over his shoulder. Riker stood in the doorway, watching, smile gone. The clouds were building again over the ridge. The storm hadn't finished with them. He loosened the reins, voice low, almost to himself. We'll settle this where it started. Lena didn't ask where. She just looked ahead, wind tearing at her shawl, eyes hard with memory. The wagon rolled on into the rising dust, silence heavy as thunder waiting to fall. The sky broke open before noon. Clouds rolled black over the ridge, wind crawling cold through the grass. Cade Mercer rode ahead, jaw tight, watching the line of storm blur the horizon. Behind him, the wagon rattled, one wheel groaning like it remembered something heavy. Lena sat beside him, shawl drawn close. The boy slept in the back, head against a sack of grain. The silence between her and Cade felt older than both of them. When thunder cracked, she flinched, hand gripping the seat. Storm's close, Cade said. I know. He looked at her, the way she braced herself, eyes fixed on nothing. There was a scar across her wrist, pale and twisted. He'd noticed it before, but never asked. Now he did. That from the barn? Her gaze snapped to him. You remember that night? Pieces. She drew a slow breath, voice low. Riker was stealing tack, whiskey feed, anything he could sell. I caught him. He lit the fire to cover it. Didn't see me till the rafters came down. She paused, fingers trembling on her skirt. You were the boy under the beam. Cade's grip on the reins tightened. The memory came sharp, smoke choking, a hand dragging him through ash, a voice whispering, keep crawling. He looked at her. You never told. No one listens when you limp. Wind ripped through the valley, snapping her words away. Dust swirled like ghosts circling back. Riker's riders appeared on the far rise, 3 dark shapes against the stormlight. Cade cursed under his breath. We keep moving. They'll follow. They'll have to catch us first. He flicked the reins. The horses lunged. Rain hit. Cold needles. The wagon skidded on slick clay. Lena grabbed the seat, trying to steady the boy. One of the riders fired. Dirt spat near the wheel. Cade pulled them toward a cut in the ridge, a shallow gully half hidden by sage. Thunder drowned the gunfire. The storm became cover and threat all at once. When they reached the arroyo, the wagon's wheel struck a rock and shattered. Cade jumped down, yanked the child out, then turned back for Lena. She was already climbing down, one hand on the seat, teeth clenched against pain. "Go," she said, "not without you." Another shot cracked. Wood splintered beside them. The horses reared, eyes white. Cade grabbed Lena, half-carried her down into the wash. Rain poured through the gully, filling it quick. "They'll corner us," she said. "Let 'em try." He shoved a fresh cartridge into his rifle. The first rider appeared at the edge, Riker's hat brim glinting wet. His voice carried through the downpour. "You think you can hide her, Mercer?" "She's mine by law and by debt." Cade looked up, water dripping from his hat brim. "Law don't own people," Riker laughed, cocked his gun. "You think that limp buys her truth?" "She's been lying her whole life." Lena's voice rose through the storm, fierce and steady. "You lied first, Bo. You burned a boy alive to hide your theft." Riker hesitated, a flicker, quick as lightning. Cade saw it. "You remember the barn, Bo?" he called. "You remember who pulled me out?" Riker's jaw tightened. "Doesn't matter. It does to me." Cade stepped into the open, rifle raised. "You're done." The shot came fast. Echoes cracked through the canyon. Dust and rain tangled midair. Riker slumped sideways, the gun falling from his hand. The two men behind him froze, eyes wide. One turned, the other followed. Silence fell heavy after thunder rolled away. Cade lowered the rifle. Rain streamed off the barrel. He turned to Lena. She was sitting in the mud, hair plastered, breath uneven. He went to her, dropped to one knee. "You could have told me," he said quietly. "You wouldn't have believed me." He nodded, not in agreement, but regret. The boy crawled to her side, pressing into her shoulder. Above them, the clouds began to thin, edges glowing faint gold. The storm was passing, dragging its noise farther east. Cade stood, offered her his hand. "Come on." She hesitated, then took it. Her grip was small, cold but unshaking. He pulled her up slow, steady. They climbed out of the gully as sunlight bled through the rain. Steam rose from the rocks, ghosts turning to breath. At the ridge, Cade stopped and looked back. The broken wagon sat half submerged, one wheel still spinning. The storm had washed the tracks clean. Beside him, Lena whispered, "No one will believe it happened." He glanced at her, a faint, tired smile ghosting his face. "They don't have to." The wind quieted. In the silence, the world felt new, fragile, but alive. They started walking west, toward whatever light was left. Morning crawled in, pale and quiet. The storm had scrubbed the land clean, sky washed silver, air heavy with damp sage. Cade Mercer stepped onto the porch, boots sinking into soft mud. The world smelled of smoke and rain and second chances. Behind him, the cabin door creaked. Lena limped out slow, the boy trailing her, hair still damp from sleep. She moved careful, not out of pain anymore, but from learning how to stand still again. "Coffee's ready," she said. Cade nodded. "Smells better than yesterday's. Yesterday was yours." He smiled faintly. The sound of it, the ease, felt strange after so much noise. He sat on the step. Steam lifted from the mugs between them. The boy chased a chicken through the puddles. Bare feet slapping soft against the earth. For the first time in days, the horizon didn't look like something coming to get them. They'd buried the wagon wheel near the arroyo, what was left of it. Riker's men had ridden off before dawn, taking silence with them. Cade had told the sheriff everything, but in towns like Dusthaven, truth didn't move fast. The man had nodded, muttered, "We'll see." Still, something had shifted. Lena watched the boy, then looked toward the mountains. "He's going to ask where we're going next." Cade sipped his coffee. "What will you tell him?" She thought for a long moment. "Nowhere yet. Maybe that's enough." He nodded. Wind brushed through the cottonwoods, leaves whispering like secrets meant to stay buried. Inside the cabin, the fire still burned low, steady. Cade had patched the roof, set a new hinge on the door. The place looked less like a shelter and more like something permanent. He wasn't sure how he felt about that. She glanced at him. "You'll be heading back to the herd soon." "Tomorrow." Silence again, soft and full. The boy laughed outside, pure sound cutting through the quiet. Lena's hand drifted to her leg, absently touching the scar beneath her dress. "You ever miss before it happens?" she asked. Cade looked at her. "Sometimes that's how you know it's real." Her eyes met his, steady, tired, alive. He reached for the coffee pot, poured another cup, set it beside her. "You can stay here till the road's dry. After that, whatever you decide." She didn't answer. Instead, she stared at the sunlight warming the porch rail, fingers tracing its grain like she was memorizing it. "You're not like the rest," she said finally. "You don't ask for thanks." Never saw much use in it. Her gaze softened, but she didn't smile. "Then I'll say it anyway." He shifted, uncomfortable with grace. "You pulled me out of a fire once. Guess we're even." Her breath caught, not from pain, but from the quiet recognition between them. "I thought you'd forgotten." "I tried." He looked toward the horizon. Some debts don't stay buried. The wind changed, warm now, carrying the faint smell of grass returning. The boy climbed onto the step beside them, leaning against Cade's shoulder like it was nothing. Cade froze a second, then set his hand gently on the child's back. "You'll need to teach him the land," Lena said. "I can." She nodded, eyes lowering. "He'll need a name that means something again." Cade looked out over the fields. "Then he's home enough for now." For a while none of them spoke. Only the creak of the porch, the whisper of wind, the slow rhythm of breathing that meant they'd survived. When Lena finally stood, the sun had climbed higher, burning gold through the last torn clouds. She gathered the cups, limp softer now, and stepped inside. The door stayed open behind her. Cade stayed where he was, watching the light crawl across the valley, catching the glint of the river winding through. The boy asked, "Is the storm gone for good?" Cade's answer came slow. "Storms don't leave. They just learn where they're needed less." The child nodded like he understood. Inside, Lena hummed something quiet, half song, half memory. The sound threaded through the open door, tangled with the smell of coffee and the hush of the wind. Cade closed his eyes. For once the silence didn't hurt. The light found them all. Soft and even, 3 figures framed in calm after ruin. Breath meeting breath, the air trembling with peace. Outside, the horizon gleamed clean and the dust finally settled.